The winning blueprint presents.
Draft Zone.
Welcome to the Draft Zone. I'm your host, Luke. Thank you for joining me. This is the NFL Draft Game, and this is the Detroit Lions. This draft game focuses in on the first round selection of every team in the National Football League. Today we'll be talking about the Detroit Lions with the 5th overall selection. And what the draft game does is takes a fun look back at the draft. We'll look at the history of the number 5 pick in the draft, as well as the Detroit Lions draft history from years 2000 to the present. Grade out every single draft pick made in that time frame at the number 5 pick and by the Detroit Lions, and give them a grade based on a baseball scale, a single, double, triple, or a home run. And in the rare instance that the player just did not work out, a strikeout. So let's talk about each player that was drafted at the number 5 position in the draft, which is where the Detroit Lions will be making their first round selection. Grade each player out from years 2000 to the present, and then talk about the Detroit Lions and what they've been able to do in the draft from years 2000 to the present. Grade it out and see how those numbers added together project to the Detroit Lions making a selection at number 5 in this year's draft. So we'll be using the past as somewhat of an indicator as to how the Detroit Lions will fare in this year's draft. Now, of course, the past does not predict the future, but you can learn from the past, and you can look back at the past and say, hey, those were some mistakes that were made. Let's not be doomed to repeating those same mistakes again. So let's look at the number 5 overall selection in the draft, started with 2000 and working our way up. And to do so, I'll be using this list that you see in front of you of every single pick in the first round from years 2000 to the 2012 draft. Every single player drafted in the first round is on this sheet, and I'll be using that when talking about these picks made by the Lions and picks made in the draft number 5 selection from 2000 to 2012. So let's get started. So you look at 2000, the number 5th overall pick, Jamal Lewis. Very productive career. Out of Tennessee, drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. You could argue that he put up Hall of Fame numbers, well over 10,000 yards rushing in his career. That's rarefied air in itself. One of the few members of the 2,000-yard club in one season. Jamal Lewis had a stellar career. That's a triple. Not quite a home run, but that's a triple. You could argue that it was a home run, but I don't think it's quite a home run. I think it's a triple for Jamal Lewis. You look at 2001, the 5th overall selection, LaDainian Tomlinson. This is a home run for sure. Home run. It's a no-doubter. LaDainian Tomlinson will be a Hall of Famer. He smashed plenty of records in the NFL as a great running back normally does. This is a home run. 2001 draft choice by the San Diego Chargers, LaDainian Tomlinson, a home run with the 5th overall selection in 2001. You look at 2002, another San Diego Charger pick, this time Quentin Jammer. And I think he's been a really good corner in his career. Never the flashy guy, never the guy that you see on highlights picking a pass off and taking it the distance. But you want to talk about a solid corner, not afraid to tackle, very aggressive. You're talking about Quinn Jammer. Longevity here is the key. This guy's been good for a very long time. We're talking about a solid player in the league for over a decade. Quinn Jammer is a triple in this league. Really good corner for the San Diego Chargers. Quinn Jammer, 2002, triple. You look at 2003, 5th overall selection. Another corner. This time, Terrence Newman. And just like Quinn Jammer, this is a very good corner who has played really well for a very long time. Anytime you can play really well over an extended period of time, like Quinn Jammer, and in this case, like Terrence Newman, it's a triple. There's never really been a huge drop-off in the career of either Jammer or Terrence Newman. I think both of these guys are a triple. And so, in 2003, Terrence Newman is a triple. You look at 2004, may he rest in peace, Sean Taylor, the very, very talented safety out of the U. 2004, comes in, takes the league by storm, very physically imposing safety. I don't think we'll ever see a safety with the rare combination of size, athleticism, speed, and just talent all in one package. We were talking about a guy that's 6'2", borderline 6'3", can run a 4.4 40, can jump with the best of them in the league, can run with the best of them in the league, has ball skills like a cornerback, but hits like a linebacker. You're talking about this all rolled up in a very tightly wound package in Sean Taylor. What a heck of a player he was on his way to becoming before his life was cut tragically short. Sean Taylor is a double. Never really got to see the true potential of Sean Taylor. I like to think that he was on his way to a Hall of Fame career. We never got to see that manifest itself. Double for Sean Taylor in 2004. 2005. Carnell Cadillac Williams. Single for Cadillac Williams. The Cadillac never really left the driveway, and when it did, it just went around the block. You never took it for a stroll. I don't think Cadillac Williams had the career that many envisioned he would, especially the Tampa Bay Buccaneers drafting him as high as number 5. They thought that they were going to get a lot out of him, and he was a solid back, nothing earth-shattering, never really was a feature back that scared you. A single for Cadillac Williams in 2005. You look at 2006, A.J. Hawk. Had questions about A.J. Hawk early in his career. He started to play better. He was a large part of the reason the Green Bay Packers were able to win the Super Bowl in 2010. And so A.J. Hawk is a double. Solid career to this point. He's been really good over the last probably about 5 years of his career. The first 2 were questionable. You had your doubts. He answered the questions, played a lot better toward the latter portion of his career. A.J. Hawk is a double right now in the league. You look at 2007. 5th overall selection, Arizona Cardinals draft Levi Brown, offensive tackle out of Penn State. So you look at Levi Brown, solid career. Hasn't been the best, hasn't been the worst. He's been a very serviceable tackle in his league. Hence, he is a double. You look at 2008. 5th overall selection goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. They select Glenn Dorsey. You know what? I don't really like to put the blame on Dorsey here. This was a guy that was at LSU. And he was a defensive tackle in the 4-3 defense. So, essentially, he was a guy that was playing the 3 technique. And the Chiefs drafted him and asked him to play the 5. That's a hard transition to make. And so he struggled. Hasn't really played up to his full potential. I think he's now been labeled as a draft bust. You could argue that he is or isn't. I'm not a Chiefs fan, so I think Chiefs fans probably feel a lot different about Glenn Dorsey. They probably feel like he hasn't lived up to his potential. And no, he hasn't. But To call him a bust, I wouldn't know if that's a very good term for his career to this point. No, he hasn't lived up to the hype that was Glenn Dorsey coming out of college. But again, you asked the man to play a position that he wasn't really familiar with coming out of college. I thought he was out of place, and hence you get the results you've gotten. He's a single in this league. I really don't know what to make of Glenn Dorsey's career, but I know he's not a strikeout. He's a single. You look at 2009, Mark Sanchez. Let me do that one more time. What an enigma his career has been. He starts his career off with a bang, getting to 2 AFC championship games. Now, granted, the Jets' defenses in those seasons were really good. The Jets' running games in those seasons were really good. But Sanchez himself played really well in the postseason, getting them to those AFC championship games. You thought the best was still yet to come. But it's been anything but. He's actually regressed from those seasons. Last year being probably his worst season of his career. He's not a strikeout. So if for any of you thinking that's the direction I was going in, no, he's not a strikeout. You can't strike a guy out who's been to the AFC championship game 2 times in a brief career like Mark Sanchez. What has he been in the league? 5 years now? 4 years? He's been to 2 AFC championship games? No, he can't be a strikeout, but he's a single. But if it does not work in New York and he does not get another opportunity to be a starter in this league, his career will in fact be a huge strikeout. I don't know. I think he's reached a point where it's at least a single. I don't think I can strike out Mark Sanchez. That's a debate for another day. He's a single right now. Let's leave it at that. 2010, Eric Berry. This is a talented safety out of the University of Tennessee. Had a remarkable rookie campaign, was on his way to probably being a triple or a home run at this point. Had the ACL injury, set him back a little bit. So he's a double right now. But he could easily be a triple or a home run by now, had it not been for that ACL injury in his sophomore season. So Eric Berry in 2010, a double. You look at 2011, Patrick Peterson, triple. He's been really good at the cornerback position in 2012. He amassed 7 interceptions. In 2011, in his rookie campaign, this guy was dynamite on special teams. I think he started to press, wanted to make every return the return, that home run, instead of just letting it naturally come to him like it did in his rookie campaign. Either way, the guy's been dynamic on special teams. He's been dynamic as a corner. He's a triple right now. And again, when we do this, we're not just doing it based off of the production that they've had on the field. We're also factoring in how it projects over the life of their career. So a guy could start out his career sluggish and then pick it up later on. A guy could start his career out really strong and only has been in the league 2 seasons, but those 2 seasons have been dynamite. You got to extrapolate that over time and think that that guy is going to be a really good player. And so Patrick Peterson, first 2 years, really good. You got to extrapolate that over time. It looks like a triple. Patrick Peterson is a triple. 2012, the 5th overall selection in the draft, Justin Blackmon, wide receiver, Jacksonville Jaguars, drafted out of Oklahoma State. Solid pick. I think a lot of people were hard on Justin Blackmon. He came into the league with a diva kind of label. He gets the DUI. It doesn't look good. The Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback situation is a mess. Yet he still was able to get 65 catches for 864 yards. So solid rookie campaign for Justin Blackmon. He's a double right now. I really like what he was able to do in his rookie campaign. And so I think Justin Blackmon right now is a double. And so that's the draft as we know it from the last 13 years, from 2000 to 2012. The number 5 overall selection in the draft. You average all of those picks up. You divide them by the number of years. It averages out to a double. So solid pick at 5. You get a guy at 5, you're usually going to get a solid player that's going to play for many years and be okay and be really good. Not great, but good. And there's nothing wrong with that. Out of that whole group, I don't think there was but one home run. Let's take a look. LaDainian Tomlinson was the only home run over the last 13 years in the draft at the number 5 pick. So you're getting solid guys, but you're not hitting that home run. Let's take a look at the draft history of the Detroit Lions from 2000 to 2012 and see what they've been able to do, and see how history shows us what the Lions may do with this 5th overall selection in 2013. So you look at 2000, Stalker McDougal, tackle, strikeout. Really bad tackle in the league, never did anything for anyone. Stalker McDougal, out! Strike 3. Strikeout for Stalker McDougal. Lions have a horrible pick in 2000. Look at 2001. The Lions struck gold. Jeff Backus, tackle. The guy's been what you want out of a left tackle when you draft one. You want him to be around for a long time. Now, he was never a dominant tackle. He's one of those guys that gets in the way and you're not getting by him. He's like security. He might not be the biggest guy, might not be the most flashiest, but when he folds his arms like this, you're not getting in. And that's been Jeff Backus for his career. You draft him in 2001 and you get 11 to 12 solid seasons out of Jeff Backus straight. The guy was so dependable. You knew that Jeff Backus was going to be at left tackle for the Detroit Lions. If you knew nothing else about the Detroit Lions, a lot of players came and went. You knew that Hansen was going to be your field goal kicker, and you knew Jeff Backus was going to be at left tackle. Jeff Backus, a solid tackle. I kind of went back and forth as to whether he was a triple or a double. I settled in on a double only because he never was really dominant. He was really good, but never dominant. And that's okay because he was very serviceable in this league for over a decade. I'm waffling on this because as I'm talking to you right now, I really want to change it to a triple because of how long he was able to do this for. Yes, Jeff Backus is a triple. I'm changing my grade on him as we speak. Jeff Backus, a triple for the Detroit Lions in 2001. You look at 2002. Joey Harrington. Look, Joey went up to the plate not bashful. He went up swinging. And so I can respect that. First pitch, Joey was swinging. Second pitch, Joey was swinging. Third pitch, Joey was swinging. Problem is, Joey didn't hit the ball not one time. He struck out. The Lions absolutely struck out with Joey Harrington. And it's a shame because the enthusiasm and life for the game was there. Joey Harrington was like a kid playing football. Much like Brett Favre, except without being Brett Favre. And so, 2002, Joey Harrington, the Lions and Joey Harrington struck out. You look at 2003. Charles Rogers. Another strikeout. Man, I'm starting to feel like an ace up here. I'm tossing up one whale of a ball game right now because I'm looking at the sheet right now and I've got a one-hitter going. I've got 3 strikeouts, 3 Ks, and only a single given up because the Lions have drafted so poorly in these first 4 picks. Stalker McDougal strikeout, Joey Harrington strikeout, Charles Rogers in 2003 strike out. What a bad career he had. Injuries, a knucklehead, and poor performances on the field landed Charles Rogers out of the league quickly. Bad pick for the Lions. Bad pick for Charles Rogers. Strikeout in 2003. You look at 2004. Finally, some good news for the Detroit Lions. They get 2 picks in the first round this year in 2004. You get Roy Williams, the wide receiver out of Texas first, and he looked like a stud early on. This guy went to the combine. He lit it up, ran a 4.37. He was 6'4" already, had all the measurables. He came in and he was really solid in his first 3 or 4 seasons in the league. Had a 1,000-yard year somewhere in there. And then it just, for some reason, just leveled off. There was no ascension. He started here and it just rapidly climbed, and then it just leveled off, and then it just declined. Who knew? Either way, it's a double for Roy Williams. He had a solid career. Was shorter than you would like it to be, but nonetheless, it's a double. You look at Kevin Jones, who you drafted later on in that first round in 2004. He started out with a bang. His rookie campaign might have been his best season of his career. I mean, he took the Lions fan base by storm. And then it never got any better. And so Kevin Jones is a single in this league. You look at 2005. And the Lions whiffed again. Man, this batting average is terrible. Mike Williams in 2005 for the Lions. Strikeout. You get the big physical receiver from USC. He sits out a year because he wanted to declare for the draft early. It was a mistake on his part. Anytime you're not playing football, anytime you're not honing your skills and really getting your craft together, anytime you're taking off time because of something you did, a mistake you made, it's a problem. And that really came back to bite him. He wasn't in shape. He wasn't ready physically or mentally to play in the National Football League when the Lions drafted him. It was a mistake. He had his best year of his career in Seattle, but it's not enough. It's a strikeout for Mike Williams in that 2005 pick. You look at 2006, Ernie Sims, linebacker, Florida State. Solid, but not enough production. Single for Ernie Sims. What more do you want me to say? A very athletically gifted linebacker that never used that athleticism to excel his game. 2007, Calvin Johnson, a.k.a. Megatron. Happens to Megatron. That is an absolute 100% no doubter, tape shot measure, home run. This player absolutely knocks it out of the park. This is what the Detroit Lions were aiming for when they drafted Charles Rogers, when they drafted Roy Williams, when they drafted Mike Williams. They wanted Calvin Johnson. And it took them 4 tries to get the one guy that could change the fate of the Detroit Lions drafting history and the state of their wide receiver position. It took them 4 swings at it. But they finally made contact, and boy, watch it fly. Calvin knocked it out of the park. And we're talking about a tape shot measure. We're talking about a moonshot. The center fielder didn't even move. It's still going. Home run for the Detroit Lions in 2007 with the draft pick of Megatron. You look at 2008, Gosher Cherilus. Solid pick for you. Too bad you couldn't retain his services in free agency. He's a double. Solid right tackle. Yeah, he's a little grabby, holds at times, but he was your grabby right tackle. He should still be in Detroit. Instead, he's in Indianapolis now. Got to replace him. Gosher Cherilus, solid pick for the Detroit Lions in 2008. It's a double. You look at 2009. 2 more picks for the Detroit Lions. 2 more picks that help you redeem yourself after all of the strikeouts early on in this drafting period. In 2009, first you get Matthew Stafford. Triple. This guy is a whale of a quarterback when healthy, and he's been relatively healthy over the last 2 seasons, which is a good thing for Detroit Lions fans because early in his career it looked like he would not be able to stay healthy, but Stafford has battled through some injuries, and we all remember the play that has defined his career to this point against the Cleveland Browns. The I don't know, my arm is out of the socket, I can't move play. That one will go down in the archives as one of the gutsiest performances or plays by a quarterback. but he's a triple. And quarterbacks are held to a different standard. I'm no different. I hold them to a higher standard as well. If you do not have a Super Bowl championship under your belt, you cannot have any higher of a grade than a triple. A home run designation for a quarterback is only given when you have a Super Bowl title. Matthew Stafford does not, but he has a couple of 5,000 passing seasons under his belt. This guy is lethal with the football, takes some chances, is a gunslinger, but he's a really good quarterback. It's a triple for Matthew Stafford. His running mate in that draft in 2009, Brandon Pettigrew, the tight end out of Oklahoma State. Solid tight end. Athletically, he's not a elite tight end, but he's a very physical presence, can really block, can catch the football, make some things happen. He's a reliable target. It can have lapses in concentration sometimes and drop the football, but he's a really good tight end. Double for Brandon Pettigrew in 2009. So you look at the 2010 draft. Another 2 picks for the Detroit Lions. This time, you take Ndamukong Suh with your first draft pick in that draft. Triple. I don't care if you like him, you don't like him. Love him, hate him, indifferent. The guy is a baller at the defensive tackle position. Look at the numbers. Look at the production. Yeah, he's a little rough around the edges. Yes, he is a little over-aggressive at times, but he's a really good defensive tackle. Ndamukong Suh, a triple for the Detroit Lions. You look at a guy drafted in that same draft with him, Jahvid Best. Man, what a shame it is that Jahvid Best has the concussion issues and can't really play because he was starting to get it in Detroit. The rookie campaign was solid, wasn't earth-shattering, but he started to make big plays. He was a big play waiting to happen. The Detroit Lions were waiting for someone to come along and make big plays, and Jahvid Best was doing that at the running back position. And just like that, the light was turned off. Literally. And he gets a concussion, hasn't been back since, and I don't think he'll ever be back for the Detroit Lions. He's a single only because we never really got to see the best of Jahvid Best. You look at 2011, Nick Fairley. I like this guy a lot. And I thought it was overkill when you drafted him, but it looks like a really solid pick now. Nick Fairley is a double. The rookie campaign was solid. The sophomore campaign was even better. 5.5 sacks. You got to like that production. And you have to think that the best is yet to come. And if that is, in fact, the case, you got yourselves a player on your hands. Nick Fairley, double, 2011. 2012, Riley Reef, jury's still out on him. Only 1 year of production. Only started half of the games. Was solid, wasn't great, but he was okay. I think that the Lions will be looking to draft a tackle in this year's draft. I think Riley Reef is a right tackle, not a left tackle. So I'll grade him out as a single right now. That could go up to as high as a double in the next few years. He could possibly be a triple. Who knows? Maybe the best is yet to come for Riley Reef. We'll see. We don't know what the future holds for him, but right now he's a single in my estimation. And so that's the Detroit Lions draft history in a nutshell over the last 13 years. A lot of really good picks, a lot of really boneheaded picks. But at the end of the day, the Lions grade out as a single for their draft history over that 13-year stretch. And so if you are the Detroit Lions, this number 5 overall pick needs to continue in the trend of good picks. Over the last 5 years, you've done a really good job of drafting. Starting with Calvin Johnson, it's been good solid pick after good solid pick. You got to continue to do that. Anytime you draft in the top 10, and the Lions, as we know, have drafted in the top 10 plenty of times in that 13-year span, you got to hit home runs. We've seen the Lions strike out plenty of times. There's no more room for error for the Detroit Lions. If you're drafting in the top 10, you got to knock it out of the park. And so if you're the Detroit Lions, as bad as you want to draft a guy like D. Milliner at the cornerback position, and Lord knows you could use help there, you got to take the offensive tackle. Whether it's Jokel, whether it's Fisher, you got to take the offensive tackle that best suits your program, that can help you right away. You lose Jeff Backus to retirement. Gasser Charles moves on in free agency. You've got a void at the tackle position. Draft one of these premium tackles in this draft, one of the top 3. Get one, plug them, play them, move on. If you're the Detroit Lions, there can be no other pick for you at 5 unless you're trading out of 5, and I don't see why you would do that. Take the value here. That's the offensive lineman, and hit a home run. I think that either one of these 3 offensive linemen could yield you a home run. And that's what you're looking for here. Nothing worse than a double. You really want a home run? You'll take a triple, but at worst it needs to be a double. And I feel like the way to do that is to draft the tackle. And so I think the Lions are going to do that. I think they're going to draft Eric Fisher with their first pick in the draft, the number 5 selection in the 2013 draft. I think that's going to be a safe, solid pick. I think this is a guy that could be an absolute home run for you. We will see what the Lions choose to do with that number 5 overall pick, but I think it needs to be an offensive lineman. It has to be a tackle, and I think it's going to be Eric Fisher. So history says you're supposed to draft a guy that's going to turn out to be a double. At that pick, a double was what it averaged out to be. Your draft history says it's supposed to be a single. You put the two together, you're looking at a solid single. Not acceptable at the number 5 pick. You need to buck the trend, get the tackle, get a guy that's going to come in, elevate the play of your offensive line, and could potentially be a home run down the road. I think that the Lions are going to get a really good player at 5. And I think if they want to maximize the value of this pick, they'll draft offensive tackle, and that's exactly what I see them doing. I think it's going to be Eric Fisher, and that's what I expect the Lions to do. Draft a tackle. It'll probably be Fisher. If not Fisher, it'll be Jokel. Whatever the case may be, get the tackle, plug him, play him, protect Matthew Stafford, get the best value for this pick, and I think that's exactly what the Detroit Lions will do. And that's all for the Detroit Lions in the draft game.